Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. And I am here with Denise. Hey, Denise, how are you today?
Hello, hello. I am good. It's sunny and warm, except I'm inside, so my feet are freezing.
Welcome to air conditioning in Florida.
Yeah.
So, I believe that we are in the holiday season, and which holiday we're in is hard to tell based upon what's in the stores. I don't even want to get into that part. For the poor turkey gets left aside for the elf, and so we're going to talk about what midlife, and holiday and survival guide and all of that, right?
Yep. Before you know it, if you blink, there's going to be an Easter bunny,
Oh,
hanging out
stop
in the
that.
stores too. I know it's crazy, right? So I have three kind of major challenges that I think we go through kind of from midlife and beyond. At some point in midlife, we need to kind of go, all right, enough is enough, right? And the first thing, and call it a challenge, call it a personal uh, slight, I don't know, is having that perfect holiday, the pressure of a
Ugh.
holiday. Why on earth do women in midlife feel like they're so torn about maintaining all these long held traditions, right? And keeping up with these unrealistic expectations that come with, the lifestyles that we live right now, right?
Even before the gram.
Yes.
Even before the gram and social media and all of that stuff, it was always, the perfect cookies and the cookies to pass around for the neighbors, and all of these things have to be done in a certain order. And I did that too.
Yeah. And it gets crazy because there's only one thing that falls apart, and that's your health, right?
Mhm,
Mental, physical, emotional. Around the holidays, so many times you hear people go, "Oh, I just have to get through the holidays." The
mhm.
holidays are supposed to be something we're supposed to be enjoying and celebrating, right? But instead, we're creating this picture perfect holiday that probably never actually happened. You probably
Mhm.
saw it once upon a time on a Hallmark program, right? But now that we're in midlife and beyond, we're dealing with fatigue, maybe hot flashes, maybe some brain fog, and just not having the energy that you had when you were in your 20s and 30s, right? What does that lead to? Overwhelm, fatigue, and
Mhm.
guilt. Why are
Mhm.
we guilty if we can't, if we don't bake the cookies from scratch?
Yeah.
But we
And
do.
on top of all of that, most people are managing a full-time job and then adding all of these expectations to their plate.
Absolutely. If you still have, like teenagers or kids that are, coming home from college, there's those expectations too.
Mhm,
So, how do we fix it? How do we make the holidays special again?
mhm.
So, what I like to think is to redefine what this perfect holiday means to you, right? Focus on one tradition that absolutely brings you joy and kind of let the rest of it go. Um,
Mm.
when we started going down to Florida for Christmas, I had to make some changes, and this was really hard. Everybody that I bought gifts for, they had their own wrapping paper. So my nephew, he had blue wrapping paper with whatever, and Caitlin, she had pretty other wrapping paper. Everybody had their own wrapping paper. It took forever, but it looked pretty. And it looked really great under somebody else's Christmas tree. But now I'm not there. I don't really get a chance to enjoy it and see it. So what do? I put everything in gift bags.
Mhm.
Now, granted, probably all of Caitlin's stuff are in a similar bag, and Robbie's are in another bag that looks similar, so they're not going, who's this one for? But it just completely took so much pressure off,
Mhm.
and it simplified it.
Yeah, that makes sense. One of the things that we did is we stopped giving gifts.
That's
Oof. How much stuff do we all need, right? The pressure, I, I'm going to say this out loud. I hate gift giving. I don't like the pressure. I don't like the pressure of failing. I don't like the pressure of buying something that I tried really hard to buy for them because I thought it was right, and then the chance that they're not going to like it.
Yeah.
It's too much rejection over a lot of effort put out. And it was really hard for my mom to give up this part too, and that was hardest for her, but it was such a relief.
Mm-hmm. Right. And it
So
gives
the
you
kids
a little
get
more
something. The little
space.
kids,
The
I
little
have a
kids.
21-year-old granddaughter, and she'll, if she listens to this, she'll know before I tell her. It's her last year. She's an adult now.
There you go. But
Yeah.
what does this allow? This gives you space for to
Oh,
be present, to
yeah.
laugh, to rest, and really enjoy this season, enjoy the people that you're around.
Right.
That's challenge number one. Challenge number two, um, hormonal stress overload. No matter what stress, whatever hormone you're thinking about, if you're in perimenopause and menopause, there's, five or six, five or six that are messing with you at the time. But even beyond, midlife and beyond, our cortisol levels, our melatonin levels, right? Holiday busyness
Hmm.
compounds our fatigue, the mood
Hmm.
swings, we're not interested in all of the hype anymore, sleeping struggles. And if you're in midlife, you're already struggling with those things anyway,
Hmm.
right? And then, of course, there's the social pressure. All of these things can spike your cortisol levels. Your cortisol levels are spiked. Your melatonin levels are never going to get to a place where they're going to help you sleep. So you have high stress, no melatonin. You're already not sleeping, and now you're struggling even more with sleep. So that's never fun. So you're exhausted. The holidays are here. People are visiting. You're going to visit, and you basically all you want to do is like crawl into bed and take a nap.
Hmm.
So here's a good thing. So how do we fix this? Give yourself permission to do just that, to pause. Um, I have a friend who when there's a lot of people and there's too much stress, she just doesn't deal well. So she actually locks herself in the bathroom for 10 minutes. And when she first told me, I kind of giggled, but when I thought about it, it made a lot of sense. It's 10 minutes for her just to reset, kind of breathe, just clear her mind. Now, granted, instead of going into the bathroom and locking yourself in, depending on where you live, the weather's doable. Go for a walk outside, right? Take a deep breath. Walk into another room. How
Hmm.
simple is this, right? These moments of de-stressing yourself, giving yourself permission is going to lower your cortisol. It's going to restore calm and help you show up at this holiday event or events, depending, with a lot more energy, a lot more patience, so you can actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
Challenge number two. Okay. Challenge number three. Food FOMO and restrictive dieting. And we know we've talked food FOMO. Food FOMO is real, right? Buffet tables, all of the cookies and the sweets and the drinks, all of the stuff, right? We're
Hmm.
celebrating. We're going to eat everything in front of us, right? So what happens is we fall into this all or nothing mindset, which we
Hmm.
end up overindulging, or overindulging and then the next day completely depriving ourselves, right?
Hmm.
So we ate too much last night, so tomorrow I'm not going to eat all day. And that's never a good idea because that sends our hormones into all sorts of directions. And it takes the fun out of the holidays.
Hmm.
So we're disrupting our hormones. We're also increasing inflammation, especially by eating tons and tons of stuff that we don't normally eat. It actually kind of takes the joy away from it. Again,
Mm.
this is celebratory. So have a cookie. Don't eat the plate of cookies, right? There's a little bit of mindfulness that needs to come in here. And really, the fix is to not think of this as I'm on a diet, right? Focus on nourishing yourself first and foremost, right? Eating your protein, your healthy grains, your veggies. All of those are essential. Stay hydrated. If you're drinking a cocktail or wine, make sure you're drinking water for every glass of alcoholic beverage that you enjoy. And then truly, when it comes to the desserts, if there's something on the table that you absolutely love that's only available one time of year, enjoy it. Literally bite by bite, be mindful about it, taste your food rather than what so many people do around the holidays is you kind of gobble it up, but
Mhm.
actually think about this more mindfully. It keeps your body in balance, keeps your mind in balance, and it allows you to get through the holidays without guilt. And I have to say, I think that in itself is a gift that you can give yourself.
Wonderful. Denise, thank you. Thank you very much. And as we all step into the holiday season, give yourself permission to give yourself grace and everybody
Yes,
around you.
absolutely.
Hello, everyone. This is Jean Gallagher, Discover Rising Tides, and I want to just take a moment to talk about my friend, Denise Stegall. I am honored to call her as a friend, and I'm so grateful that she gives us her insight during our shows, each show, and talks about healthy living, eating real food. You hear Denise say, eat real food a lot. Well, she means it, and she knows what she's talking about. She is an amazing healthy living coach, curator at Living Healthy List. And if you ever have any questions about what is real food, why does it matter, how does that apply to me, how do I change, what do I need to do, how do I even create a healthy living shopping list, make sure that you call her. She is your healthy living coach, and you can find her at healthylivinglist.com.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Discover Rising Tides, How the Outside Makes the Inside Better. My name is Jean Gallagher, and welcome to the show. And if you're listening to us on any podcast platform and you'd like to see our shiny, happy faces, come on over to YouTube. We'll be here for you. And I am really excited to introduce a friend of mine, and I call her a friend because we've never met in person, but we've met virtually for a really long time through a networking group. And Chanaye Jackson. Chanaye, welcome.
Hi guys. Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm excited for this conversation. And so, give us a little bit about your background and or your bio, if you will, not the background. And we're going to dive into the background, but a little bit about you, and then we'll get started.
Cool. So I'm Chanaye Jackson. I am the owner and operator of Swantown Creative Systems, or Swantown Creative. It is actually an ode to my hometown. I am from a place called White Swan in central Washington State. So I have been a business owner now for 7 years, almost 8, and in a lot of different things. And so what I like to tell people is I've lived about 5 lives. So I have a master's in public health. I used to work in research, biological research. I was primarily a biologist. I worked in education. I've worked in the film industry in Atlanta, Georgia, and then now as a consultant and operations strategist for business owners.
A couple of things.
Just bored.
But wow, doesn't it just, it creates such a picture, because going from the medical piece to the consulting piece in a non-medical field,
Yeah.
it all does, but it all marries together and connects to a point where you're at.
For sure. I like to tell people that there is a very solid through line, and I promise that there is a way that all makes sense. To be honest, my research and education background definitely got me to then getting to public health. I focused
Mhm,
on maternal and child health specifically, so moms and babies. But I
mhm,
had a strong research background in that. And then I moved further and further into public health, doing more technical assistance and training for health centers around the country. And then that led me into running my film industry business. So I had an equipment rental company and a production company. Those were my primary two. And then from there, that's what led me to here doing more
mhm,
operations consulting, because specifically my equipment company, in 1 year, we reached about almost a million, just shy of $1 million, and
mm.
made a lot of mistakes on the way. And so basically my work is, how do you scale to be a $1 million company, but then two, how do you prevent the mistakes that I made? And I have lots of thoughts about how to prevent those mistakes. So that's the reason why I got into the work that I do.
So you also attended the School of Hard Knocks.
Hard knock life is a real thing. Yep.
And you graduated.
I think I might have a master's.
Yes. And it does come with a cost, but you know what? That is, I think that it's more that degree is more applicable than anything else because in order to be able to guide others, it's important to have walked those shoes first.
Yes. My goal in life is to not be a hypocrite, right? So, have you lost $200,000 in a year? No? Cool. I have. Let me tell you how not to do that. Have I made $1 million? Yes, I have. Let me tell you how to do it. I want you to be able to, there's, you win some, you lose some, and I want you to be able to be excited about both.
So tell me, we're going to start right now at the present for quickly, but I know we're going to dive into the present later. But what does Swantown Creative do, or what is your primary focus right now? And then what I want to do is I want to go backwards and really talk about how you get to where you are. But I'd like to know where it is first, and then we'll go back and talk about the trip is going to be fun conversation.
Yeah, because I'm going to touch on one of your favorite places, so I'm
I
excited.
know, I'm so excited.
So I have so Swantown Creative, I think like I mentioned before, is just an ode to my hometown. I'm from a very, very, very tiny place, and really what the focus is can we look at your business model? And I have a framework that I call the 3 Ps plus you. So it is saying people, processes, products, and then you at the top. Think of sort of like a triangle. So are you hiring the right people? Are you working with the right people? And the answer is yes or no. There's no gray. Are you pricing your products effectively? Do you have a client retention model or a client ascension model that makes sense over time? And then do you have the processes to support all of that work? And then you, the business owner, do you have leadership? Do you have a strong mindset? And then you as like yourself, right? So it's leadership, mindset, and self. When was the last time you took a weekend off? Do you hang out with friends? Have you seen your significant other? Do you hang out with your children or people you care about? So my thing is like, let's look at the 3 Ps and you and what do we need to do to modify those? Not necessarily, we don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You probably have some great things going on, but the idea being, what do we need to modify and change so you can scale if you want to, or grow if you want to? Or if it's really more along the lines of like, I want to make my life a little more easeful, but this business is not fitting me and my leadership style. And so that's what's really important is one of my biggest learnings from my days as both in the corporate world, but also running my own businesses was that I had businesses that didn't fit me and the way that I like to work, right? Constantly being called, constantly like I prefer to have Sundays off. So why am I working on Sunday all the time, like all the time, right? I prefer to work, maybe around 40-ish hours a week. Why am I still up at midnight working, right? So how do we go ahead and create a business that really suits who you are and the way that you work?
I think that that's so important and it took me a really long time to get to that point as well. Because, as a financial advisor, I feel like I have to hit a certain mold. And I am really, I don't conform well. I guess is a good way to put it. I don't really conform at all, really, kind of. And it took me, in this 20-year journey, I was like 5 or 6 years, 7 years in, and I'm like, this isn't working for me. I don't want a fancy office. I don't want a fancy desk. I don't want a shirt and tie, suit thing. I gave that up a long time ago, and I don't want to be in a high sales place. And I had to really look at, what do I want out of this business? What do I want out of this business? And what do I want to be able to give in this business? And that led me to figure out how to show up authentically and provide what I want to provide and not listen to the noise of what other people are doing. You have to go through that process of, it's funny, I tell clients a lot, you tell me what you don't want first. If you tell me what you don't want, then you're going to be able to figure out what you do want. So it's okay to say no or no, thank you. And in a sales environment, you don't want people to say no because then they'll never say yes. But I want you to say no because, and then conversation afterwards, because we're both going to learn something. And I had to figure, if you're in your own business, you have to figure this piece out. And sometimes the only way to figure that out is the school of hard knocks, or have somebody like you that comes in with experience and say, hold on, here's what I see, because you're coming as an impartial observer. And that third party role brings such a freshness, and you're actually putting the owner first in a way that's going to create a better environment for everyone that's working with the company.
I don't think I've actually really said this to a client ever, but I guess in my head, I'm really, I'm responding to what my mother used to say to me was when I was like, when you're like really overwhelmed and you're like doing too much, probably, I would call my mom on the like freak out and be like, and my mom and were really close. Um, and she would be like, Nay, it sounds like you're out of balance.
Mm.
Hey, you're out of balance. And so what do you need? And so like while my mom couldn't like she couldn't identify with like what I was talking about, right? Like not necessarily
Mhm.
like I was talking about things that were completely outside of her zone of genius, out of like what her experiences were. However, she could hear like, does this make sense? Are you sleeping? Are you eating? Do you like what you're doing? Like, are you breathing? Are you breathing? Right? Like,
Yeah.
and so like when I'm working with the business owners that I work with, like the question is like, are you in balance? Right? Like, yeah, there's seasons where like maybe you're a tax preparer where like yeah,
Mhm.
January through April like you might hate your life a little bit, but is there a
Mhm.
way for us to like create balance inside of your busy times? And then when
Mhm.
you're not so busy, is there a way for us to readjust what balance looks like? And I am completely anti hustle culture, and Kool-Aid is not my favorite, so um yeah, I'm with you there.
Yeah, in learning how to create the appropriate borders.
Guardrails.
And yeah, exactly. And knowing what that is. And I think it's genius that you're bringing that insight to companies, because it's so needed, especially for, it costs so much money to hire and develop somebody, and that the cost of retention is makes so much more sense to spend money and you spend less money retaining employees than you will rehiring people that would have, that replacing somebody that would have been perfect for the job if there was a better environment.
Yeah, and I mean, and the reality is too is, I mean, you can kind of say the same thing for the clients you work with, right?
Mhm.
I have a talk that I called cheaper to keep her as being very cheeky. But realities are it's cheaper to keep your employees if they're
Mhm.
performing well, it's cheaper to keep them. But it's also cheaper to keep the clients that you have. So how are you delivering? And like,
Mhm.
are you doing it in a way that makes sense and that they can be excited about you, about whatever your next thing is? So for me, I just come at it as like we can retain everybody, but there are standards, and that there's standards that have to be
Mhm.
met, right? And so you
Right.
can't just keep people just because you love them. You can do that too, but you waste a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And so you're setting those new standards for not just for yourself, but for others, in order to lift the company to the next level of whatever that is.
Whatever that is.
And so when you're talking with somebody, do they often know what that is?
Nope, not a clue. Which is, well, that's kind of the beauty of it, right?
Yeah.
Because I like to say that I solve the problem of being frustrated and overwhelmed. Why are you frustrated? I don't know. There's this, and this, right? Like the number of things that, like the big list that people come to me with and say, like, I'm frustrated about. I'm tired. I was up until 4 a.m. I was writing. I was monitoring this person's whatever. I was doing that. I was there, the janitor and the CEO, right? And everybody in between. which is fine because we've all done it, right? Like
Mhm.
I'm never gonna cast the first. I do my best not to throw that first stone, but the reality is like, but there comes a point where that is actually detrimental to wherever you're trying to go next, right?
Mhm.
So you being the janitor and the CEO and everybody in between, and managing and perhaps even micromanaging everybody in between,
Mhm.
you may as well just do it all yourself, right? And so we do get really tired. We do get really frustrated. There are opportunities that we can find. And so usually when I work with a client, we have like a we're solving a primary problem. So one of my clients came to me and she's like, I would like to launch she was launching a very large course. And my question was to her, I was like, because I'm not a course launcher. That's not what I do, right? I was like, okay, cool. So how are you going to sell it? Well, I'm just going to send it. I'm just going to launch it. That doesn't work in the age of internet that we're in. That doesn't really work.
Mhm.
I was like, that's not going to
Mhm.
work. Okay, so you're just going to launch it. And then what's going to happen? Not really sure. And so I was like, okay, cool. So my zone of genius is like, let's figure out how to solve the problem. Okay, so you have an email list. That's amazing. Let's use that. Oh, you want to figure out how to launch the course? Okay, let's talk to people who actually launch courses for a living, because it's not
Mhm.
me. I will never, I'm a Jill of all trades. I know how to do quite a lot of a little bit of things, but I will also let the experts do the expert things. And so I was like, cool, let's go and find somebody who are experts in course launching. Okay, cool.
Mhm.
So we did that. Then it was like, okay, so do we need to find a PR person to help you with like podcast tour, like PR work, maybe even like, some news releases? Like, what do we need to do? Okay, yeah. So I'll be the first hire, but I'm not your last
Mhm.
hire. So
Mhm.
that's important for people to know is like, because I'm going to stay in my lane. I'm very good at strategy. I'm very good at operations. I'm very good at systematizing. We can talk about a lot of stuff, but my goal is, and something that most of my business owners that I work with, they abdicate power to whomever
Mhm.
they're hiring.
Mhm.
And so for us, the goal is we need to understand where you're trying to go. And then from there, we can hire somebody and give them like, this is where I'm trying to head. How can you help me get there? Not
Mhm.
just I need a PR, and then asking them to solve it for you.
You know what I love about all that? You said zone of genius, but you stayed in your lane because you're coming across all of these areas that they need improvement, but you don't feel the need to be the person that fixes all of the things. And that's very not ego driven because it would be easy to come in and say, "Whoa, I've got let me fix this for you and let me fix this for you," but understanding that that's not your capacity and that's not how you want to be portrayed, but you're also following through with that and saying, "Here are the areas that I see that you need action on, and here's an expert in here." And now here's the expert there because now you're getting the mind and the action from the experts in those areas and it it takes the pressure off of you as a consultant and you're not necessarily a fixer of everything. You're the observer and you correct and give guidance to where for them to be better.
Yeah.
Now they have the tools that says, oh, I need this person, I need this person. So it's not just I need Chanaye, because you always do need Chanaye, by the way. But it's not that you're not going to, they don't necessarily need to call Chanaye for every little thing. They're saying, oh, I have a PR thing. Now I'm going to call this PR person. And you're teaching them how to better themselves in that situation. You're giving them tools rather than just fixing a band-aid.
Yeah. I mean, my goal is to talk myself out of a job,
Mhm.
right? So like
Mhm.
like yeah, I want to be with you forever. And of course, I want to retain you for as a client for as long as I possibly can. Of course, because when you're my client, like you mine, right? However, the reality is like there comes a point where you're going to hopefully, and
Mhm.
sooner rather than later, age past me, right? Because I don't do business
Mhm.
or 10 million, right? Like,
Mhm.
I don't do businesses that have 100 employees, right? I don't do, there's a lot of things that I don't do, and I'm very okay with that. So I hope that if that's where you're headed, that you get there quickly and but with more ease. And you can take
Mhm.
my businesses that I ran in my past were fairly small, but they were mighty, right? They made money,
Mhm. Mhm.
comfortable money. And so the goal is like that you're making the comfortable money the way that you want to, that you're sleeping at night, you hang out with friends, you drink your wine, like whatever is your like whatever is the goal for your life, like I want that for you.
That's beautiful. And so can you describe like a light bulb moment working with a client, and what did they go, oh, wow.
So I had a client, she's a bookkeeper. Um, and she had a couple of employees making comfortable money. And I keep bringing up, have you had a weekend lately for a reason? Because I think of her. She was talking, so she was talking about how much work she has to get done every week, right? As a bookkeeper, she had, I don't know, somewhere in the ballpark of like 30 or 40 clients. But again, she had a team, so it wasn't all on her, but she had quite a lot to do. So I pulled her, we were talking, and I was like, hey, can you do a time audit for me? Like, I'm just not understanding why
Mm.
you're not sleeping, why she has a partner. I was like, why? Like, she was frustrated that she wasn't hanging out with her. I think he was her boyfriend, a partner. Um, she was frustrated that she hadn't been hanging out with him. And she was like, I just want a glass of wine. And so I was like, hey, I don't need you to go super crazy, but I want an idea as to there's 120 hours a week between the three of you that you're currently paying for. I'm not seeing 120 hours of work on paper. Like what I'm seeing here is not 120 hours. And of course, like, no, we're not going to output 40 hours of work, but I should see closer to like 90 or even 80,
Mhm.
right? I'm not seeing that. And so she did it. And again, it was like time audits you can go crazy with and be like,
Mhm.
these 4 minutes I was doing this and this, like these 2 minutes I was doing that. I was like, do it to whatever extent feels good to you, but like do it over the next 3 to 5 days. Whenever I see you next, that's when you stop. And she's like, great. She sent it to me early, and I was like, sweetheart, um, which sounds really, that doesn't sound great, but I was like, sweetheart, you have a lot of time that you can either take more of this on and resituate, or you can pass off this work because you are doing entirely way too much. And so she was like, wait, you're seeing places where I can like drink wine on Saturday night? I was like, yes,
Yes.
yes. And so for her, a lot of our work was actually her business was again, part of the reason why I have the three P's plus you and the people side of it is,
Mhm.
do you like your clients? Do you like who you work with? Yes or no? We culled half of her client list because she disliked about half of them. And
Mm.
I never allow a gray area because of course, like sometimes they're cool, but if you roll your eyes, if you put the stink eye on, if you sigh, if whatever, right? Choose your favorite I don't like them thing you do. If that happens, then it means that you probably don't like them and you want a lot less of them. And so she had
Mhm.
about half of them. So we raised her prices to rates that made sense. She was severely underpriced. But so adding in, like, so doubling down on the people that she liked in her client list, she didn't need to be so full, charging them rates that made sense, that were actually market rate,
Mhm.
allowed her to actually have time with her partner to be able to drink wine on Saturdays. And
Yeah.
she didn't even want a full day of, like, she didn't even want like a full weekend. She was like, I
Not a
just
full bottle, just a glass.
I just want a glass of wine on Saturday with my person. Let's do that.
And I wonder, did she also find streamlining her client base? Did she also find some similarities among the clients that she liked so that she could direct
You
how
could
she
double
wanted
down.
her business to go forward?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Mm,
But again,
it's brilliant.
I'm not a marketer, right?
Right.
But like it was starting to become it's like there's
It
things
painted
that
its own picture.
yeah, it's glaringly obvious after a while, like, oh, so we're going to stay further away from, she likes to do work with nonprofits. We're going to stay away from nonprofits that have only been in business for this long, who might only have this size side of boards, right? Because they tend to not have the money necessary for her
Mhm.
to be able to pay her people the correct rate and pay herself the correct rate, right? Like,
Right.
so it became less of like, you're a bad person, or, like, I don't give to charity, but more along the lines of like, this is a very non-personal decision. It's a business
Mhm.
decision.
Business decision. Mhm. So, what brought you to be able to have this insight? What happened for you in your businesses, or what led you to say, this isn't working for me, I have to realign? When did that point happen?
You know, when you get kicked in the teeth a couple of times,
The third time is the winner.
yeah, the third time might be the winner. Or like, everybody has a plan until they get knocked in the face, right? Mike Tyson. Yeah. So yeah, to be honest, my last kick in the face was um wrapping up my $1 million year.
Mm,
That's when I knew that I was like, I can't do this one more time. Um, yeah, we're growing and it's awesome. I had a business partner, that's the we. Yeah, we're growing and it's theoretically we were very successful for all intents and purposes, but I can't live like this, right? Like, just because in that same year that I made all this money, I also went to Maine. I went for a camping trip where I basically enforced a silent retreat where my goal was to not speak to people and be as far away from people as possible. Like, looking at, not looking at, I was deep in burnout.
mhm,
And so yeah, that's now, thank you for asking this question because I never really thought about it this way. But yeah, that was my telltale sign. Granted, I did not get completely out of the business for another few years,
mhm.
but my exit was imminent.
It started the process.
Hmm.
And it's not always a light switch. You're not always in and then off.
No.
There's a gradual fade out that can happen. And so what made you decide, because you were in Georgia before,
Yes.
and so what made you decide to go to the other end of Route 1?
This is where we say, like, side note, Jean knows a lot more than about me. So I've lived in 6 states and now 4 countries. And so my last state where in the film industry was in Georgia, in Atlanta specifically. And I like to tell people that I got lost and I jumped in the car with my dog and I moved down to Tulum, Mexico a little over a year ago. So everybody else catches up with us. Um, yeah. I'll be honest, I hated Atlanta. There was something about that city I think that everybody should visit. However, I just couldn't find we all like to say like I couldn't find my people. I could not find my people. I'd been there for 5 years or just shy of 5 years. I It was one of the ways that I was exiting from the business. It was I needed a reset in totality. So the way that I was living my life, the hustle culture that was like, I feel like a culture, like true culture of Atlanta, that was not for me. And it was showing up on my body, right? I was
Mm,
puffy and big and uncomfortable and all the things. And it was showing up on my body in ways that just like, I was at one point, I was taking a lot of meds and taking a lot of vitamins and like, what is happening to me and moving to Mexico. And I thought I was going to be here in Mexico for 4 months. As of us recording, it's been 14 months.
mm.
And
I can't
so
believe it's been that long.
crazy, right? Um, yeah, and I just needed an absolute reset. It's to be honest, it's very similar to my main trip in its own way. But I wanted absolute focus on my business, absolute focus on myself. And there was a lot of noise in Atlanta.
Mm. So I for some people that are listening, where in Mexico are you?
I'm currently in Oaxaca.
There we go. We had to get the word out. Oaxaca. And so tell me, so the exit to Maine versus the exit to Mexico, um, very diverse in differences. What did you find in your first exit when you went to Maine and you went camping? What did that do for you?
So I had said like, if have you ever heard yourself breathe? I was
Hmm.
actually starting to breathe again. So I rented a car. I was in Atlanta. I rented a car, drove up through the Shenandoah Valley, crossed
Hmm.
over, and yeah, it was an amazing drive to get there. And then Maine itself is amazing. So how I got to Maine, the where Maine came from is so my mom is no longer with us, and I have in my head that uh, that we were supposed to, she really wanted to see the lighthouses in Maine. So I was like, so what I did is I got out of Georgia. That was the that was the plan. Got out of Georgia as fast as I possibly could. And then turned off my GPS. I used only a paper map.
Hmm.
And I just decided like, where am I driving? And there's this book, it's called Blue Highways. And there's one of the first lines in there is like, I could not do, so therefore, but I could go. And that was what was driving this trip was I couldn't do literally anything else in the business in my life in Atlanta. But I could go, and I'm a very good driver. I love to drive. So it was a way for me to just figure out how to breathe again, like get back
Mm.
outside. Like, what does it like? I'm a country kid. I'm from a place that is super duper tiny, less than 1,000 people, no stoplights. Yep. Like my closest neighbor has cows and pigs and etc. Like I'm from nowhere. Sometimes there's not a dot for my town. And so I realized that I need to go back to my roots to be able to be able to move forward. And so, but I could not breathe anymore.
Mm.
And so my camping trip in Maine was, and I didn't have any plans. I'm not very good at itineraries, to be perfectly honest, but it was, I want to be here, so I'll just go. And I want to be here, so I just want to go. And I remember like entering into Maine. I remember going into northern Maine and being like, I made it, Mom. My first lighthouse, right? Like pitching my tent and like finding these cool apps to be able to I'm not a bird watcher or anything, but
Hmm.
you hear these like beautiful bird sounds and you have no idea what the bird is, right? So like finding an app where it's Cornell bird
Hmm.
song, I think it's called, amazing. I was able to record a bird sound and I heard this bird like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times and they were just gorgeous to wake me up. And I was like, what is that bird? Found it out, right? Of course, I don't remember. It was a while ago, so I apologize. I don't remember what it
Was
was.
it a red-eyed vireo?
It might have
'Cause
been,
because they wake you up every morning in Maine.
I mean, or even like the little raccoon that like stole my marshmallows
Hmm.
twice before I
Hmm.
finally figured out how to like, I mean, I needed to do silly, like it's silly, but I needed to
But
do,
it's not.
but
It's
it's not.
important.
Like it was
Yeah.
important. I needed to do both of those things to be able to just breathe again.
And
Um,
like your mom said, are you in balance?
find balance because I
Yeah.
was not in balance
Hmm.
at all.
How did you know? How did you know that? So you're in Maine, you're camping, you're just trying to figure out who and what is important and breathe. How do you know where when you have that balance? How do you know when I think I'm good?
I
Or
don't
did
think
you know it was time to go back and you had to figure out what you were
I
doing?
mean, I don't think you ever really know until it's past. But so
That's a good point.
when we're recording now, so you know how Google Photos goes and says like, "Hey, do you remember this time 10 years
Hmm.
ago? Do you remember
Hmm.
this time, whatever?" So yesterday I got a notification from Google Photos, and it was Thanksgiving Day 4 years ago. And I had
Mhm.
recorded a 30-minute video of myself. So this is around 5 months, 4 months after I had returned from my main trip. And I
Mhm.
watched that entire video. And in that video, I said, it's been a really hard year, but I'm so glad that I've done it.
Mm. Wow.
And I'm sitting here 4 years later, and I'm like, it was a really hard year, but I'm so glad I did it. Right. So I don't know if I wasn't ready to leave Maine.
Mhm.
Like, but you gotta go make some money and
You know,
you have like,
that thing. Yeah, kind of.
yeah, like
It's sort of important.
I have done, like, there was stuff to do. So I was sad to go, but on the other hand, 4 months later, Thanksgiving, I'm with my dog. This video is me with
Mhm.
I'm making banana pudding and I'm giving my dog ice. It's like one of her favorite snacks. And I'm talking to this camera and I'm like, this is amazing. This is
Mm.
this is how I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
That's fantastic. And then, so then 14 months ago, you decided to drive to Mexico.
Yeah. So I said that I was in Atlanta. Atlanta is very green. There's lots
Mhm.
of camping, there's lots of hiking. It's awesome. However, it just never was my place ever. I
Mhm.
just couldn't figure it out. And so I was actually planning to move back up to the DC area, which is where I had lived prior to Atlanta. And um, but I'm really good at logistics and nothing was working. And
Mm.
like I couldn't figure out where to live. I couldn't figure out where I'm going to put my dog, where am I going to put my stuff, like how that all, nothing was working. And a good friend of mine who lives just outside of Tijuana was like, why don't you move here? Because I was complaining. And I was like, so I didn't hear Tijuana, I heard Mexico. Um, and which is a good thing. And I thought about it for 3 weeks and I was like, maybe there's something there. Uh,
Mhm.
and this is prior to the election. This is prior to all of that. So it had nothing to do with that. There's a lot of people that have left in my circle who have left for mostly around politics. So this has nothing to
Mhm.
do with that. I do want to state that. And what was fascinating was I thought about it for 3 weeks and then I'm talking to the same friend and I was like, yeah, so I think I'm gonna go. Will you stay on the phone with me as I make my Airbnb reservation? And she's like, yep, right. And it was, to be honest, like I've lived in a lot of places and
Mhm.
probably too many. And I'm not military. And it's probably been the easiest move that I've ever made.
Mm. And you can tell when things aren't forced. When you're trying to do something and it's like you're banging that square peg into the round hole piece and you're just trying to get it done and it's just not working, that's a huge message that this is not what should be happening right now.
Exactly.
And when you're doing something and there's just ease with everything, it's a great indication that you are heading in the same direction the universe is telling you to. And they're like, boy, did that take you a long time. And you did not hear all those messages.
Girl, what were you doing?
Right.
Yeah.
So how does this spot and it doesn't matter where the spot is, it just happens to be in Mexico. But did you find your people?
I don't know.
Mhm. But does it matter as much right now?
Nope.
Doesn't matter. But in Atlanta, it mattered.
Yeah, because I was supposed to be making a life there,
Right.
whereas like the, yeah, I was supposed to be making a life in Atlanta, which includes friends and family and
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever, and I
Sure.
just wasn't finding good solutions. Whereas in Mexico, even though I've been here for 14 months now,
Still temporary.
it's still temporary. So,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, I have found really, really, really good people, right? Like how I
Mm.
moved to this apartment, how I moved to my last apartment, like how I moved here. Like I was in Tulum, now I'm in Oaxaca, like how all of that all worked out, right? Like my car, like I've been running into really good people. And I don't feel like and there's not been a whole lot of, as you can probably tell, not a whole lot of effort. Um, so I don't know if I'm finding my people, but my people are finding me.
Mm. I like that. I like that. And then this feeling of centered, what I'm also feeling of balance, and the word I'm hearing is centered.
Same.
And that feeling of being centered, that's the word that's coming to me for you also. And that also shows itself in your business and the ability to become creative in your Swantown creative business, right? And it breeds out the where you need to be right now in order to fulfill wherever your business defines your three P's in a U.
Exactly.
Yeah, to do what you do for others.
Yeah.
Mm,
No extra
wow.
words needed. You're awesome. Yep, exactly.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what would you tell people? They don't need to move to Mexico or drive to Maine?
I mean, if you like to drive, feel free. I think when I looked at my odometer when I went to Maine, I drove 5,400 miles that
Mhm.
month. I drove 3,600 miles to get to Tulum. You don't have
Mhm.
to do that. What I realized is it's figuring out what my routine actually is, my rest really is.
Mhm.
So I used to not sleep well. There was times when I'd sleep for 2 or 3 hours and that was it. I am definitely a 7 to 8 hour girly, and I was getting 2 to 3. It was crazy. That's not,
Mm. Oof,
yeah. So
I
I'm
can't even imagine.
me neither. Now, like how did I do that? And why is probably a
Mhm.
better question. So what does rest look like? Right? And rest doesn't need to be sleep, but rest can be, I put up my feet today. Like that's all I'm doing, right? Like, or how do I wake up in the mornings? Like, yeah,
Mm.
I'm one of those people. Yeah, I jump on my phone, but like, and maybe I even surf a little bit on my social medias or you, I'm a YouTube person, so spending a lot of time on YouTube. But like I love to drink tea. I drink a lot of tea. But like, so how do I drink tea? Exactly. Like, how do I drink tea during the day? Like, what does that mean to me? What am I symbolizing when I actually am drinking my tea? Actually, now I'm drinking iced tea, so it's a little warm, but same difference, right? Like, what about tea and like the routine of like making my cup? Am I like satisfying for myself? When I eat food, what am I eating and why am I eating it? And not
Mhm.
necessarily like, oh, because I'm hungry. Yes, you should do that. But like also like what feels good and what fills
Mhm.
me. And like, and granted, like I would love a good like McDonald's French fry because who doesn't love them? But also too, like I haven't had fast food in a really long time. And like, but
Mm.
why was I doing that before? It was because I need to rush and hustle and be quick, but I don't need to do, but for what? Like
Mhm.
who am I pleasing?
Yeah, figuring that out and having somebody like you to help people figure that out is really important. Who are your typical clients? Who should, well, no, don't answer that yet. Um, what would be some indicators that somebody should reach out to you? What type of business do you typically funnel towards if there is a typical business? And how do people get in touch with you?
So I like to talk to people who have been kicked in the teeth, right?
Hmm.
And hopefully not as bad as hopefully not like full on burnout, had to run to the woods, had to run to Mexico, whatever. Hopefully not that kind of that version, but you're like, I'm stuck and I'm
Hmm.
frustrated, working too many
Hmm.
hours, too much time. Maybe even you don't like your business is starting to look that way. Um, those are the kind of feelings that people tend to have. I like to, so businesses that tend to like to work with me usually are in the finance vertical. So you might be in the fractional space, like a CFO, you might be a bookkeeper or even an advisor. People who are in marketing often like to work with me. I'm the logic to your creative. Um, so if you have to deliver, like basically, if you have to deliver the same things over and over again, then I probably can help you streamline and figure out how to like make it easier, better, faster, right? Like kind of like Kanye's song. Um, but you've also just really understood like there has to be a better way, and to be honest, there probably is, and you're stuck.
Hmm. Okay. And how do people reach you?
So I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I hang out the most. So if you can spell my name, you will find me. I think there's two of us. So Chanaye Jackson. And then you can also go to swantowncreative.com and I hang out on my website. So,
Awesome. Sinead, it's been so much fun. It's always fun to talk to you.
it is
And
amazing.
yeah,
Thank
so
you.
thank you so much for spending some time with us here. And I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thanks, Gil.
Thank you so much for listening today. Today's show was sponsored by Seaside Solutions, my financial services company. As a business owner, it's easy to be pulled in many different directions, and often taking care of yourself plummets to the bottom of the list. For me, I find myself outside to reground. My time outdoors helps me manage my day more effectively and be more present for my clients. Through this, Discover Rising Tides was born. At Seaside Solutions, we truly believe that education is the foundation of financial wellness. Our primary focus is to provide guidance that is designed to help you achieve your long-term financial goals and visions. Working with a plan allows space for doing more things that you love, like being outside to make the inside better. If I can help you create or realign your plan, or if you would like to be added to my weekly newsletter, please let me know. This week's topic was 5 ways to set more achievable goals. Your referral means the big, beautiful world to me. And if I can help, please let me know. And thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.